this is episode 25, MMA Breeze. Today we have Jose Shorty Torres. How are you doing, Shorty? How's life?
I'm great, man. I'm alive. Any day above ground is a phenomenal day. And I'm just doing my thing, relaxing. Today's actually our day off of practice. So it's like I get to somewhat relax.
That's a good day. Good to hear. Good to hear. First of all, I wanted to ask, you're a very exciting fighter. You have decorated striking background, but obviously doing that at a young age, you also found formalized wrestling. So that in itself, you must have created such a unique base for martial arts. And I just wanted to get your perspective of how would you describe yourself as a martial artist and what would you consider your base?
Yo, man, my three biggest strengths are boxing, Muay Thai, and Judo. And I use them all in sequence. I'm such an aggressive counter fighter, where I walk forward, I like to punch. Again, I'm a Mexican boxer, so it's one of those guys that I love the brawl, I love the firefight. Most of the guys can't take the heat, so they want to clinch. Well, for me, I've learned a lot of Muay Thai training. And for me, elbows and knees are my thing, especially for being a short guy. And then people open up with Muay Thai. They're like, oh, man, I got to get my hips away or I don't want to deal with it. And then that's where my big flashy throws come in, my wrestling, my judo. And then from there, it's hopefully Khabib style. But I like to keep the fight standing and have a lot of fun with it. I'm not, as much as I want to be the stereotypical MMA fighter, be like, oh, I'm a well-rounded fighter. I know I have my weaknesses. But for me, whatever strengths I have are phenomenal strengths. And I definitely exploit them in fights.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And I know, speaking of judo and wrestling, seeing you've been training at the Go Shit Academy, there's a lot of great grapplers out of there. They have great judo guys, great wrestlers, Richie Savage.
Yeah.
How would you describe that atmosphere and just tell us what it's like being around guys like that?
Man, it's just super positive. Like Rich and I were helping each other for his last fight. Angel Alvarez is, I think, still looking for an opponent for Titan this weekend. And it's just fun where, I'm the outsider technically going to the goat ship for sparring. So all the guys are usually kind of, coaching against me. And then you can have Angel every once in a while or Richie Savage every once in a while, like, oh, like, do this move. Or they'll say the judo move in Japanese, like, do this one. I'm just like, thank you. And then I'll do it. I'm like, I'll look to them like, I appreciate you. They have a lot of fun at the goat ship. They film everything and everyone, is outside the cage like, oh, come on. They're always yelling like, they're 100% a vibe. And I appreciate that because it's fun. And honestly, I can tell you this, out of all the gyms I've been in, I've been to some like really, really high level big gyms. They give the realest life MMA experience because they have the cage and then out of nowhere, like some guys will stop sparring outside and like look in, and because it's such a good sparring round, they just start yelling. And it almost seems like that real life in the moment atmosphere. And it's some people fold into that, some people, deal with anxiety or this and that. And it's just, again, it is a good time. And just after sparring, even though, again, I am the outsider, they took me in as family. And it has a lot of fun, man. I try to teach them as much as experience because they're a very brand new gym. So, Roy Echevarria, Jared Betancourt, H. Alvarez, all these guys really starting to get into their prime or slowly get into that point. Man, I give them all the advice I can, and they're phenomenal. They're much better than where I originally started. So it's just the evolution of the sport. So if I can help, and if they can help me in the process, it's amazing. And their wrestling does that.
Incredible, man. Incredible. I've been very excited myself to watch them progress. Like you said, they're a new gym. So I'm sure we're going to keep seeing them in headlines and at these Titan events and at the UFC events and everywhere else that they attend. And that's something that I wanted to touch on real quick is, you had the UFC tenure. You've been with Brave here for a while now. You were undefeated. You entered the UFC. You got a finish in your debut. And then your second fight was a very formidable opponent who's actually right now on a tear in the UFC, still with momentum, Alex Perez. But after that loss, your only loss at the pro level, you were cut. And there was a lot of drama going on in your division. So I want to ask, this far removed from all of that, and having some fights now post UFC in the Brave banner, how is your perspective on the UFC? Your feelings, have they changed at all? Is that a place that you would like your career to valley into again?
It's a real negative atmosphere. You hear a lot of bad things with the UFC lately. I was one of them. Given I'm not a Masvidal, I'm not a Dustin Poirier, I'm not a Conor McGregor that has a big platform like they do. So when I said stuff, I just immediately got cut. And I'm not one to let people run me over. Even though I'm a small guy, man, don't step on me because I bite back. And little Chihuahua can do some work, So, excuse me, my phone's dying. But I was like, little Chihuahua can do some work. But for me, man, they're having a lot of problems with respecting fighters, and especially the small guys. We definitely struggle with the respect. There's not much publicity, and I think that's also on the UFC's part. DJ, the best champion, and if it's UFC's history, but they never really promoted him. The guy did a suplex on armbar, and you can't promote him. Come on. So for me, I get a lot more respect from Brave. Heck, I even make more money because they pay me respectfully for that, and I get to fight top level guys that were cut from the UFC, and they're like, hey, we'll sign them, we'll pay them more, we'll respect them more, and even promote them that much better. And hopefully, at the end of this year, I'm the inaugural flyweight champion for Brave, and I get to bump up and be a double belt champion. But the future, we'll never know. I can't say no to the UFC when it comes to that. But right now, I'm not interested. I'm focused on Brave and see where the world takes me next.
That's awesome, man. Speaking of Brave and your new journey there, not so new anymore. You have a fight I hear coming up in November. Tell us about that.
Well, I don't know if I have that fight yet. Nothing has been officially announced. That's what they've been telling me of like, hey, you're gonna fight in November, possibly in Russia against Ali Bagutinov. I don't have a date. I don't have a location, which sucks. So that's the hard part with COVID, is nothing is guaranteed. But I know Bellator is having an event in Russia with Fedor Emelianenko. So I know Russia is going to be open to Americans traveling overseas with the whole COVID restrictions. So that's an awesome thing. So I'm hoping that my fight is November, but time will tell. But either way, I have my opponent set. Ali Bagutinov was ranked #1 in the world before, fought Demetrius Johnson for the belt. And, plus I think he got cut because of USADA. So for me, if he's on roids, even better, because that means I'm facing literally the best of the best. I'm fighting freaking, roided Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles too.
I love it. Yeah, that's definitely, again, another formidable opponent. And these days, it doesn't seem like the UFC is that monopoly that it once was as far as competition goes, and it goes back to kind of what you touched on already with the fighter pay. Jake Paul and some other people have brought that to light. The Diaz brothers have been talking about it for a very long time. All these other organizations having success, having the media now, having the contracts with the channels and the networks. Do you think that the UFC and other institutions as well will have to start paying the fighters a bigger share of the pie now that it's becoming more of a competitive plane?
They're going to have to. I mean, Conor McGregor was one of the guys, as much as, we kind of hate on him now, which he kind of semi-deserves it. Man, he helped change the sport. He was like our Muhammad Ali. And I'm not comparing him exactly to that because there was a whole Muhammad Ali act and different movement. But because of Conor, man, he's like, no, I want pay-per-view numbers. No, I want this. I want extra pay. And then eventually the Diaz brothers started saying it. Eventually Masvidal was saying it. Dustin and all these fighters started getting on board that are at the top of the top and starting to learn that without the fighters, man, there is no show. Without the fighter names like Dustin, Masvidal, all these guys, there is no show. They bring the numbers. Boxing right now, it's like 60-40. 60% goes to the fighters, 40% goes to the promotion. That's how it should be. If not worse, comes the worst, 50-50. And I believe we saw all over social media these days of a new promotion possibly coming out with like an NFL type of thing for us fighters with pension plans, healthcare system, a 50-50 purse. And that's amazing. That's something that we've been dying for years. Like, I can tell you this, if you are a professional MMA fighter or just an MMA fighter in general, you don't do this sport because of the money. You do this sport because you love it. We do not make a living off of this. I know, man, I used to know UFC fighters with kids that still worked full-time jobs at, freaking Applebee's or Chili's and all. It's like, dude, what? You're a UFC fighter. It's like that whole Jim Carrey meme in Dumb and Dumber. It's like, it's not my real job while he's driving the limo. It's like, that sucks, man. And hell, even one of my teammates had to get a temporary job and he's 4-0 as a pro. Yeah. It's like, this is not, it looks good. We're on camera, but it doesn't mean we're making a killing.
Well, it's, you think about, I think the minimum for an NFL practice squad player to make is like $400,000 a year, something like that. And that's practice squad. But the difference between some of the other sporting, I guess, leagues and games in general that have been around for so long is the unions. They have the unions. They have the fighter groups that come together, and that's something MMA lacks. Do you think that MMA in your lifetime or career time will see something of that magnitude when fighters will come together and unionize, but also with that comes the risk of standing up against, the big platforms like the UFC and kind of holding them hostage, like some of the notorious strikes and the MLB and things like that? Do you think that in this time that you'll see fighters have the nerve to do something like that?
Um, Only smart fighters will. And when I say smart fighters, I mean fighters that have something in the background. Like me, I'm buying an apartment complex. I'm owning a restaurant. I have other sources of revenue. I get sponsorship deals outside of fighting. So I'm a smart fighter that has stuff planned just in case the fighting doesn't work out well or COVID comes back. So it's the fact that a lot of these fighters that 100% solely rely on fighting, they're not gonna speak against the quote unquote man or promotion just because, well, they can't afford it. They legit can't afford it. When you have these striker pays, it's like, okay, well, you're not getting paid for months. Can you afford it? And most people who even want to be on strike can't, because the lifestyle is so different for them. So for me, I stood up for myself, and look, I got cut from the UFC, and I was able to find different sources of revenue. Other people aren't willing to do that. I mean, you look at, there's trying to be a fighter union years ago, and they got dismantled fast. The UFC is sadly a monopoly, and when they change a rule, every single promotion in the world changes a rule. So with this whole new event coming in, or new promotion coming in 2023, whatever they say it is, I think it's huge. Do I think it's going to happen in my lifestyle or my lifetime of fighting, my career, when it comes to unionization and this and that? Man, fighting is a poor man's sport, so we're happy with $100. Yeah, obviously, we want more, but we need to make a living, and any little cent counts. So I don't see it happening anytime soon. Fighting, again, is a poor man's sport, so we aren't the most educated. Me, I have a college degree. I'm good. I'm set. Other guys, not so much. This is their final straw, and they can't afford to lose it.
Right. And, there's one platform that I haven't heard you speak on, unless I missed something, but the PFL, as far as fighter pay goes, and taking care of their guys and promoting them. I've interviewed all their casts in this season, and everybody is very, very pleased with how much they put them out on the social media platforms, how much they promote them, back them up. They line them up with interviews like me and other people, without them having to even use their agents. The PFL was doing it directly. And then on top of that, like the $1 million, obviously, that's so big for fighters, like you said, it's being a four-man sport. Should the PFL offer a weight class that you could compete in the coming seasons, is that a league that interests you at all?
It would be dope. It would be nice if they had a flyweight division, just because I love the tournament style. Again, I won worlds twice as an amateur fighter, Pan American Games twice as well. So it's one of those, and a wrestler. So tournament style is a huge thing to me. And I think the PFL is a nice staple to the sport when it comes to trying to change it. Let's create a league. Again, for me, man, I don't have a life because of fighting. I don't have an average life where I get to mingle, have a relationship, have a family, do this, travel, spend time with my family. I have to work every day and stay ready every single day until however old I decide to retire. With the PFL, they have a league, they have a season, like the NFL, like the MLB, and then off that season, yeah, you're still working technically, but you're taking your breaks, you're taking your vacations, do what you need to do, because you have this time period to work. It's like a 9 to 5. You got to work this time, and after that, you're free. But we don't have that. So for me, it's like every promotion around the world, Brave, UFC, all the big ones, Ryzen, Bellator, we have to be ready just in case. PFL creates a season. The only problem is, even though they are better structured when it comes to possibly pay and then winning output and this and that, and going straight to you instead of the manager, I think that's awesome. You look at after the first year, I think Lewis Taylor was one of the champions, and then out of nowhere, the next year they're like, "We're gonna cut your weight class," and they took out the weight class, and there goes his job.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. He won $1 million, and that's awesome, given there's taxes, coach pay, and this and that. So he definitely didn't make $1 million. But the fact is, his job still wasn't guaranteed for the next year, even though he was a winner. If you lost 2, 3, 4 in a row, okay, your job's not guaranteed. I get that. But when you're the champion and you can't come back next year because they decided to cut your weight class, I think that's unfair too. So there has to be some type of structure. But the PFL is taking steps in the right direction.
That's definitely a great point. You have a organization, you don't want to worry about if you're gonna be able to compete next season. But yeah, as far as Brave goes, you've been very happy with them. They've treated you very well from what I've heard you speak on. I know they're a fighter run organization. You've touched on that a few times. Could you elaborate on why that's so important to you, and what makes that so different than the other organizations?
I think it's a huge thing because fighters know what fighters go through. So it's kind of like a life coach or somebody you talk to. It's like I'm not gonna go to somebody and ask them for advice with stuff they've never ever been through. It's like I'm not gonna ask a rich person for my poor people problems. Like, hey man, can you help me out? It's like, well, you should have money. It's like, well, I don't have money. Like, can you teach me different ways? So it's the same thing with fighter stuff. I've had to pull out multiple times, sadly, because of injuries. My father passing away, and then obviously COVID and me being angry with wanting to fight, not being able to travel overseas because of being American, which again is out of my control. These guys understand of like, okay, we understand injuries are going to happen. Hey, we understand that you want a full fight camp, and we're not going to try to do a 10-day or less thing like I've been with other promotions. We're trying to make sure that we understand what you're going through. And Mohammed Shahid, the president of Brave, I used to be a teammate. Like I used to punch him in the face. He used to punch me in the face. Like he understands. Like I believe before he became president, I believe he was going through shoulder surgery because of all the fights he had in India. It's like he understands the pain and the agony of the sport. Like this stuff sucks. So when he has fighters back out, he's like, it sucks, but I get it. Compared to other promotions, the managers or promoters, the matchmakers that have never really been in that situation of being hurt and this and that. They're like, okay, so your foot hurts. So you want to fight in 2 weeks? Just like, dude, my foot is broken. Hell, even in the UFC, like when I broke my hand, I got called every single week. I was like, I can't fight for 6 months. It's like, okay, cool. When can you punch? I was like, well, I can punch my first day of punching October 1st. All right, you want to fight October 6th? I'm like, so you're telling me I got 6 days to get ready for a fight of just starting to punch? No, I don't. That makes no sense. And Brave being again a fighter-owned based promotion, they're not going to do that. They understand, like, hey man, you need time to recover. We want the best Shorty. We don't want Shorty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not just trying to put you on to get to fill a card. They care about you as an individual. That's definitely something cool and something other fighters should definitely take note of. But other than that, what are some of the things that you appreciate about Brave and that other fighters should be taking a little more attention to?
The big thing about Brave, and I think the biggest aspect of them, and I'm a huge boxing fan. So you look at Manny Pacquiao, you look at Lomachenko, you look at Triple G. No offense to us Americans, but we don't care about anyone outside the states. It's like you got to be an American for us, or at least in the states for you to be known. Dude, Pacquiao was already a world champ before he came to the States, and then he takes a 2-week last minute fight. Same thing with Triple G. Like no one knew he was undefeated with like 19 straight knockouts, and he comes in and demolishes everyone in the States. And everyone's like, who the hell is this guy? Like, why didn't we know about him? Same thing with Lomachenko. No one knew he was a 2-time Olympic champion until he came to the States. Like, who the hell is this guy? The thing about Brave is that they promote not just countries like Brazil, Ukraine, the Philippines. They go into like some of the smallest cities and be like, you know what? We're going to give all you guys a fair share instead of just going to the capital. Instead of going to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, we're going to go to this small city and give you guys, the locals, a great chance to be able to watch these fights and a great chance for all the local fighters to be on this huge stage. And that's a huge thing. Again, if just imagine if we didn't have a Manny Pacquiao. Just imagine if we didn't have some of these other phenomenal fighters from all over the world. These are all guys from small cities and states. Like Triple G didn't get his U.S. debut until like 34 years old. It's like, dude, you're technically already past your prime. Just imagine if we would have knew you at 29. If you were technically in a big city, if they would have come to your place. So Brave goes to all these places. I believe they've been to almost every continent besides obviously Antarctica. And they've literally gone to every small city and given every person a fair share. And they also call everyone and treat everyone the same, whether you're the very first fight in the card or the main event. I think, dude, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And you've accomplished something. You said something earlier in the interview about becoming a double champ is something that you have accomplished in Titan. How, as far as the timeline goes, how active are you looking to be here come the next few fights that you're eyeing, and when do you see those title bouts coming to fruition?
Man, the hard part is it's just COVID. COVID obviously is uncontrollable. I've had 2 fights with Brave, or excuse me, 1, 2. I've had 3 fights with Brave, pretty much almost one every year so far, which it sucks, and it's not Brave's fault. One was definitely my injuries, and then after that, it's just life. COVID obviously keeps me back, and it's like they're trying, but they can only do so much, So for me, I would like to get 3 fights every year. That's how it's been since I've been, I think 25 is when I made my debut, or 24 is when I made my debut. So I've had 3 fights every single year until I got to the UFC. I think I had 3 fights, but I had 2 fights in the UFC, and then Brave is sadly again had me 1 fight, but it's not their fault. So going into that, I want to fight as much as possible. It's just hopefully the world is as close as possible to normal as it can be.
We're hoping, but you found other ways to stay busy. You like you said, you're almost a jack of all trades. You do other things other than just fight for money. You've been doing some guest commentating, and obviously, I'm sure the vast experience that you have in multiple disciplines helps you, as well as your degree, to articulate these things. Where did that come from? How did that opportunity fall into your lap, and what made you decide to go for it and say, yeah, let's do this?
Man, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be like one of those Disney kids, just be on camera, be on TV, do the big Mickey Mouse thing with the crayon thing.
Yeah.
Like that was so dope in the 2000s. So I've always wanted to do that, and I tried acting. It just wasn't my thing. And then I got into college and was just so busy with school, I never pursued it more. But I always took acting classes and theater classes, and my mom always kind of pushed me into it. And by the time I made it to UFC, that was my goal. I was like, man, I want to be a commentator. Like I want to be a Paul Felder, Dominic Cruz, these guys. And then sadly, I was released prematurely, but Titan was giving me opportunities to be a guest commentator. And then Kamaru Usman couldn't show up. He's being too popular, claiming a belt against Tyron Woodley. So I'm like, oh man, I get this opportunity to commentate. Awesome. And then just being that side guy, getting extra practice and having real, mature co-commentators, the main commentator to really help me. Cyrus Fees, Joe Ferraro, all these guys really helped me out. And then eventually Brave was like, you can commentate for our first event. I'm like, this is dope. Like I'm doing this real life now. Yeah. And I'm good on the spot. I'm good in front of the camera. I can, if I have to BS something, I got it. Like I can just go and improv and have some fun. But like even this weekend, I'm commentating for Titan FC on Friday with both Jillian Robertson and Charles Rosa. And I'm the main commentator. I'm the John Anik. I'm the one that controls the show. So I have to be 100% ready, which sucks because there's a bunch of Kazakhstani fighters. Shout out to you guys. They have really complicated names. I'm like, damn, I gotta remember this. I can't rely on this guy to tell me. I have to do it all. And then I think on Sunday I'm commentating for a local show called XFN. So I like to just be different. I don't want to do the same thing and rely and be dependent on one thing. I want to be independent and have them depend on me of take care of this show, take care of that show, and have them call me. And it's been a good time, man. I'm happy. Again, I'm a jack of all trades. I don't want to just punch you. I want to kick you. I want to take you down. I want to do all that stuff, but with life in general.
Yeah, man, right on. Well, best of luck to you for preparing for that show. And I'll be tuning in and watching. I love those organizations. They put on some great shows. So it's exciting to see you in the mix there. I wanted to ask you, though, I'd be remiss if I didn't speak on your foundation. I know you definitely have talked about in the media about your experience with your journey in martial arts and how it put you on a good path in life. Where did that passion come from to start the foundation? How did that idea come? Was it an idea that came to you by yourself? Was it a conversation? And when did you get the wheels spinning on it?
Man, I think I started it in about 2018, 2019. But the crazy thing was I saw fighters like Manny Pacquiao always giving back so much of his money, like 40% of his paychecks goes to his foundation and helping his people. And I want to help my people too. And I've always been a helper, a big brother, a father figure to a lot of guys. I've always wanted to be a big brother. Sadly, I'm the youngest one of 4 total. So I'm like, damn it. So, I just wanted to do my thing and help. And my father was a helper. My brother's always been one. The only problem was I was the only one that succeeded. And it wasn't because I was smarter or more talented. They're both way smarter than I am and definitely physically more talented. They just never had the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And for me, I had the opportunity. I had the typical Latino Chicago lifestyle, but a gang infested home, born in a trap house. This, like every kid in my neighborhood had around the same type of story. Some worse, some better. And I looked at my dad and brother. I was like, man, if they had a father figure, if they had positive role models in their life, instead of later on, they could have been so much better. And for me, my father wasn't the best dad. So when I entered the gym, I ended up finding a positive father figure, finding teammates that were friends that try to keep me motivated. I was like, what if other kids could have this? And not just kids, but teens and even young adults. Again, fighting's a poor man's sport. And you don't go to college or even finish high school. This is your last resort. And for me, 100% of my proceeds on my website, teamshorty.com, goes to my foundation. And I, again, sponsor people with gear, pay monthly memberships. I give scholarships out. I'm actually creating a $3,000 scholarship for Morton East High School in Cicero, Illinois, because one of the guys that used to help the neighborhood all the time sadly passed away. So I'm doing it under his name. And there's so many things I'm trying to do with my foundation. I want to be like the Good Fight, the Pacquiao Foundation, all these guys. I just don't have the name yet, but slowly the ball's rolling, and I'm trying to do more open events to do more. I think I'm actually going to sponsor a high school down here in Lake Worth that just, they have no sports supplies because the state won't fund them. Like, cool. I'm going to find a company that's going to be able to donate. I'm going to buy a crap load of sports supply to help you kids, even just, again, keep you off the streets. You might not make it somewhere. You might not be a professional fighter, a professional soccer player, but because of wrestling, because of martial arts, I got to get a college degree. Mm-hmm. And now I have backups. Now I can speak very fluently on camera and do this. So I want to give the same opportunity and see where the world might take you next because of being inside a gym with positive people.
That's awesome. And you're never, you're never too small or too young to start getting the ball rolling on things like that. So that's really cool that you look at it like that. Like, hey, maybe you don't have the Dustin Poirier platform, but you do have a platform and you're using that in a great way. So my hat's off to you. And to reiterate again, where can we go to donate to that?
Yeah, man, if people want to donate, teamshorty.com. There is a donation link on there right now. I believe it's only through PayPal, so I'm trying to figure that out a little bit. And I think it's Zelly as well, if people have Zelle. But man, 100%, if people buy anything on my website, 100% of those proceeds go to my foundation. So even if you buy a t-shirt, dude, that can help one kid. And I've been sponsoring a lot of athletes. I sponsored Keith Speed, one of the guys who literally had a last minute fight and couldn't afford to take his coaches with him. It's like, I got you. Like, this is an opportunity. You've been helping me out. Now, the key thing is I don't sponsor fighters that are good. And I state this why. I sponsor fighters that are good people. I don't care if you're 0-30. I don't care if you're 30 0. Man, if I've seen it, that you've been paying it forward, or if I've heard from people that you've been paying forward and just doing a lot of free work for people, giving back because you want to, not because you're trying to look for something in return. Yeah, man, I'm going to pay it forward back. I'm going to help you out. I'm not looking for anything. Just put my logo on there so my foundation get a little more publicity. But that's about it. I teach them social media. I teach them how to market. I teach them how to get sponsors and also, obviously, hopefully some technical stuff with fighting. But I just try to give them an opportunity and see where it goes. Keith Speed won his fight. I believe to claim the championship. We have Christian Puas, who fought for Combate Global from Mexico, Tijuana, Mexico, with Brandon Moreno. I go, hey, you're fighting main event. Do you have any sponsors? Tell me about it. He goes, I don't have any sponsors. And I'm like, dude, you're fighting main event for Combate Global. Like, this is a huge thing. Like, country versus country for Combate Global. Latinos versus Latinos is a huge thing. I was like, I got you. Dude, I paid his rent for like 2 months. Like, you know how great that is for him? Like, he doesn't have to worry about that stuff. So, again, fighters, we don't make much. So for me, I'm gonna die with no money anyway. So if I'm able to give back whatever I can, my personal money, and right now 40% of my paycheck goes to my foundation, I want to help out. So I'm hoping other people want to do the same, not just with my foundation, but just in life in general, man.
Absolutely, man. That's so exciting to hear, that you're doing something like that for Chicago and helping kids out. And I'm gonna put the link down here so you guys can check it out underneath. Give it a tap. Go check it out if you have.
And it's been countrywide so far. I've been helping people everywhere, man. So I'm not gonna like, oh, you're not from Chicago, deuces. Like, I'm helping everyone. Keith Speed from Cleveland, Ohio, Christian Puas from Mexico, from all this, Sebastian from, I think, Colombia, all these guys. Like, if I can help out, I can help out, man. And I've been seeing them do work in the country, and I think it's amazing, man.
Good on you, man. That's really awesome. And we're all gonna donate if we have anything. I'm putting that down at the bottom. I don't want to take up your whole night. I know it's late. Appreciate you hopping on here, but for your next fight, why should everybody tune in and check you out and watch your journey becoming the double champ here at Brave?
Man, for me, I'm a person that likes to be different, and I'm fighting Ali Babutino, a guy I used to watch fight, growing up, and wanted to fight growing up. Now it's like a passing of the torches. So for me, he's the same exact style, just older. Am I better? I guess we'll find out. But it's a brawl type of fight. He's called, the Puncher King, and me. You watch any of my fights, if someone's bleeding. Sadly, I think it's always me. But I like to have fun, man. I mean, you even look at my call-outs on Jose Shorty Torres and IG. Like, I'm on a tricycle. I'm on a wooden Trojan horse. I'm on these little things where I'm trying to be fun, true, and I'm as realistic as possible. So if I'm scared, man, I'm gonna tell you I'm scared. If I'm nervous, I'm gonna tell you I'm terrified. I'm doing 8 Mile Eminem, B-Rap, throwing up in the toilet before the fights. You know, like I'm just true as possible. So for me, I can tell you this: I'm like a Donald Cerrone type of fighter, or even better yet, I'm a small Justin Gaethje. Like I said with my UFC debut, doesn't matter if I win or lose, you're gonna want to watch me fight.
That's awesome. Well, we'll be tuning in. I know I will be. Hopefully we can do this again sometime. It was a
Oh,
pleasure
yeah.
chopping it up with you. And best of luck with the commentating, but also your fight. And hopefully it happens here in November for you.
I appreciate it, man. Take care of yourself, and it was a pleasure. And I can't wait till next time.